Last week we put FC Barcelona under the microscope and we were having a look at our Sorare strategy for the 24-25 season. You know, where we'd left some wins on the table, we'd left some points on the pitch, as it were, where we're going to try and strengthen what strategy, what, you know, route to success we're going to try and double down on, lean into throughout this next kind of chapter of the season. In the video today, I'll be showing you some of the cards and some of the stuff I've been up to recently in terms of how my strategy is evolving throughout this season, as well as putting the finishing touches on pushing this strategy over the top. At any point in the video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. If you are brand new to Sorare and you haven't even opened up your account yet, there's a link in the description of this video that will get you $50, pounds, euros, whatever your currency is, of market credit to go out and reinforce your squad to compete for the $15 million in prize money here on Sorare. Also linked in the description of this video is the new 2 playlist, so if you are a beginner and you're after beginner based content, you'll find that in the description of the video. This video is much more about pushing and developing a strategy that's coming to maturity, as it were. So yeah, always have a lot of fun with this. I know you guys do in the comment section as well. And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into it. Now, last time we were looking at this, we had reached the kind of end of a chapter in terms of the opening kind of salvo of the season, the first half a dozen games or so. And I was looking at the lack of success that we'd been having in winning cards, money, boxes, and missing out on the golden period of essence out of boxes, which is now resigned to the history books, it feels like. But at the end of that chapter, I'd finished 10th in Global All-Star and we won the Marvin Wanizek. And around that time as well, I'd also picked up some really cheap, really affordable in-season Celtic cards that were just like very much undervalued in the market, like an Austin Trusty for £14, for example. But since getting the Wanizek in, someone who is also in-season, someone who's a top-level operator, I was putting the focus back on making sure we improve the best team, the #1 squad, and the options that we have for it across in-season and Classic for the contender competition, where I've got 4 active Celtic collections up and running, fully fit and firing, but we're missing that little X factor, that extra little player, the extra captain selection, the extra bit of depth to make sure I wasn't so tightly hamstrung to all the performances of Celtic for the primary teams. And one of the key areas that I was looking at reinforcing was up front. And I did a live stream, I think it was on Tuesday after rewards, with Harry Trades, and he helped me out with a lot of this, where we're running around the market and looking at different options. And he made a fantastic suggestion in a guy called Isaac Lidberg. But when I was looking at the team he played for and who he played alongside, and seen Scotland Youth International Fraser Hornby in the same squad, who has been doing pretty well so far this season in the Bundesliga too. Also half the price of the Lidberg. I managed to pick this up for like 25 quid or something. I fell, yeah, £24. Since then he's went for 50% more, which is fantastic. I thought that was the best bang for buck. It's a Scottish player as well, which is great. And the form he's been on is very AA based, although he does have decisives here. He's a player that's shown that he's got some AA to him, as it were. Sadly, since we've got him, but he did come off injured at the weekend, so I'll need to watch out and see. This was from the start. He only played 30 minutes, so I need to see how that's panned out. Maybe I'll need to go and get a Lidberg as well, just to, you know, reinforce that forward area, as it were. And with Wanizek coming in, it just kind of further shone a light on the lack of midfield top end firepower, guys that can break in to the 90 plus to into the 100 category. Yeah, there's Rakitic, yeah, there's Shaqiri, there's some guys lining the club already, but more of those guys just give us more firepower, more options to be able to cycle for the most optimal fixtures. And we managed to pick up a classic Michael Cuisance, or Michael Cuisance, or Michael Cuisance. I'm not too sure what we're calling him. His name's spelled in a few different ways in a few different places. Now, this season I'm going to be playing MFL, which is the football management game on the blockchain on Web3, where you own your players, you own your club, you compete in the leaderboard to win cash, and all the assets in the game are tradable in a secondary market as well for cash, and you know, all that other good stuff as well that we've come to know from football fantasy games in the blockchain on Web3. I'll be playing the game once a week here on the channel. They're sponsoring the channel as well now, which is fantastic, and thanks again to MFL for doing so. If you're interested in playing this game yourself, by clicking on the link that's in the description of the video, you do support the content here at the channel, and I thank you in advance if you do so. If you do get stuck, if you've got any questions, jump into the comment sections and I'll come and sort you out. But this is a guy, this Marseille card might look a little bit familiar to you. This is a guy who I had a super rare of for a long time, waiting for him to realise his potential, and it's not since he's joined Hertha Berlin. I've seen a really interesting thread on him when his form is starting to pick up. If we look at his like L10 or whatever, I think when he was about halfway through this run, I've seen a very interesting Twitter thread on him saying that he's hired his own physio, he's hired his own coach, his own, like, he has like 5 or 6 members of staff, and he is just fully focused on getting his elite career back up and running so he can tap into his potential. And his form has been absolutely stellar since we've picked him up, of course, but he's had one game and sadly brought in a 44, but that's just sod's law. you kind of roll with the punches with it and all the rest of it. But another classic midfielder that alongside Rakitic and a few other guys can kind of carry that burden and help my best team that I've got available. And then with those acquisitions coming in, I was looking at my contender lineups for this weekend with Celtic playing in a cup semi-final. It meant that none of the Celtic cards were going to be competing in contender, and I thought, wow, this is a great opportunity to play the best of the rest in a couple of lineups and see how they do. But the one thing that kind of stood out at that point was I only had actually one non-Celtic contender defender, and that was Marcel Halstenberg of the Leipzig collection, who's now at Hanover. So I was scouring around the market, I was looking for in-season cards, I was looking for guys that were really, really cheap. I had a very nominal balance left. We did win some money last weekend that funded the Cuisance and the Hornby that you've just seen, and I found a Mohamed Giazi. Now, Mohamed Giazi was actually linked to Celtic quite briefly before going to DC United. He'd been playing in Sweden and had been a bit of a Grimaldo, a Tavernier kind of fullback where he was taking corners and could hit a free kick and all the rest of it. But he now finds himself back in Scandinavia, but this time in Norway with Lillestrøm. And when I'd bought him for, what did we end up paying for him? Like £2 or something? £2.40 for an in-season. There's only 4 games left when I bought him in the Norwegian League, and he just dropped an 87, which was absolutely fantastic for me. And in the game that I did deploy him, he brought in a 58 without multipliers, which is really good. Some nice all-around there. No clean sheet. They lose 1-0. But Lillestrøm are fighting against relegation. There's only 3 games left. That was a 6-pointer that they've lost points on, so I'm not too sure how much longer Mohamed Giazi will be at Lillestrøm, or playing SO5 for that matter. Let's see what his contract situation is. But for £2, I thought, hey, for at least a couple of fixtures for a little bit of depth, I didn't mind this. He brought in a 58. And both of those squads went out at the weekend, and their objective was quite simple, and that was get promoted out of Division 3 Classic and in-season into Division 2. And both of them went out there and managed to do it. Sadly, I didn't have my Laidlaws in this team. Laidlaw dropped at a 97 or a 100-point game or something crazy like that. Wrong captain on Cuisance, and a couple of boxes to come with it. So that was a nice kind of start to this kind of developing part of the strategy, and this puts on screen very nicely all the stud kind of cards I've got here. So I do have some other guys that play in like China and Mexico and all the rest of it, but just from the European standpoint, we've got 2 extra forwards, we've got 4 extra mids, and we've got 2 extra defenders to help kind of beef out that Celtic roster. So I think that's a nice balance, nice number ratios as well. You guys know when it comes to squad building, I love keeping a track of the numbers of positions. I'm a big double mid guy generally, and it feels like, you know, with some of these cards, they really suit that formation. So then the focus comes back on to reinforcing the Celtic collection. And with the way the Celtic rotation has went this season, it's a little bit unclear on who is going to be the #1 choice in a couple of different positions, which meant that picking up only my second Greg Taylor, would you believe, for like £36 or something like that, just made a lot of sense. With having an Alex Valley in situ as an in-season defender, it opens up a team, it makes it really competitive. But if he is to drop to the bench, if he's to get suspended, loses form, whatever, that would then remove an in-season defender out of the repertoire for me, which meant handcuffing it with a Greg Taylor just made absolute sense, because, you know, Valley keeps his spot, fantastic, but if he doesn't, then I'm no worse off for it, as it were. And then it's taken me ages to get 1, and then very quickly after getting 1, I got 2 Cameron Carter-Vickers, and so far this season it's been really difficult to use that card. It's not been scoring as well because he's had some injuries and all the rest of it as well, but his in-season card had never been so cheap. And although I was kind of wrestling and struggling with, do I want a third Cameron Carter-Vickers, having an in-season defender like him that is totally nailed on now, with Trusty and Scales seemingly fighting for the other centre-back role, even if Vickers is going to be in and out the team, I've got the cards to play with that anyway. And when I know he is the most nailed on player when fit and available in that centre-back area, it just meant getting him as an in-season just was an absolute no-brainer. And it really does feel that that levels up the in-season first team greatly. The Greg Taylor kind of secures Team 1, Team 2 for having a good option, but this makes a really big difference to the Team 1 viability. And then I got looking at this Celtic collection, and guys, I didn't think this was going to be on the cards for me this year, but I am this close to getting that Celtic collection for this current season to 5%. I could possibly be the only person that has so many Celtic collections up at the top percentages, because the first season, I'm the only player with 5%. The second season, I need to buy like 2 or 3 cards, and the 5% is in. Last year, I think I would need to fill the whole squad out to get there, and I'm probably not going to do that. But with the current in-season squad, I'm not far off it at all. We've got a lot of 90-day 10 points still to come. So then I was looking around at instant buys and who was cheap and affordable, and Odenholm was pictured back in the stadium this weekend, and the word has finally came out from the Celtic camp on his status, and it's been that he's had dodgy calves. Essentially, he's been out injured for this whole time. So although I don't expect him to come back in and be a starter or anything like that, I've got an Odenholm from last year. If I get one for in-season for £4.83, which, by the way, we've also got, it's a pack, so we get to open it, and it might be a special edition, which is also what I'm hoping for. We can find that out together. But if he does, if I know he's going to rotate in, if I can see the writing on the wall he's going to play, having an in-season midfielder like him to go along with my Bernardos and my McKibbins and whatever, it's definitely something that I might want to hang on to. Now, we're not going to open the Quan because it changes his team. We want to keep that. But Odenholm, let's see, do we get a special edition Odenholm for those extra collection points? Let's see. There's not many of these early access cards left. I did take my eyes off the graphic there for a second, so I actually, although you guys knew there, I was like, oh crap, I missed it. But no, just a standard Odenholm. Oh well, it is what it is. That's fine. So now this brings the strategy to the last kind of housekeeping kind of checkpoint that I need to watch out for. As many of you guys will know, maybe some of you don't, but the SPFL, one of the great things about it on Sorare is it completely follows the English Premier League calendar, the UK calendar, the British calendar, however you want to think of it. And what makes that special is it plays all the way through the festive period. It's one of the few leagues that do so. This year there is no winter break because of the change in the Champions League schedule, the cup demands, etc. But some of the fixtures are just kind of more spread out throughout the season, as it were. But this is a point in the year where Celtic cards, the Celtic strategy, always has the chance to rein in and bring in all the rewards going. So I went on to Lineup Builder. I went on as far into the future as I possibly could to try and find the actual Christmas game weeks. At this point in time, it's not on Sorare data. So I just went as far into the future as I possibly could. And on every build, I just filtered it by Scottish Premier League, Scottish Premiership, SPFL only. And then I've went through this building it with the sense of Valle is going to play, and I've went with Scales just because it doesn't really matter, Scales or Trusty. I've only got one card of each anyway. But Valle, I've only got one of him. Taylor, I've got two. And I've just tried to build this in a relatively normal worst case scenario in terms of, like, I've went with Scales on this case, but it could be Trusty. And I went with that as a worst case scenario because Scales is obviously classic. But if I know Trusty's going to play, he could play in this team here rather than Alex Valle and be double defence with Vickers. I've then got the Valle to play somewhere else, and it makes the rest of these teams just a little bit better as a knock-on effect. Now, you might see here the Odenholm card is in the second team here, because I noticed very quickly that, you know, everyone in this last team here, McKeown, Forrest, Ida, they're probably going to feature in every game. I don't mind them being in the last squad I have available, because some of them will score okay from the bench, some of them might surprise start, and I want to have that little bit of coverage. And that made me realise this is probably a better way of displaying it. If I put Classic Scales as the worst case scenario into the bottom team there, if I do have Trusty, he's in season, and then it frees up a Classic spot for another Daisen Maeda card to play or something like that. I've got another Hitate forward card I could use, so yeah, I quite like the way that's sitting there. But what this is missing now, as you can see here, for when only the SPFL play, for when only Celtic play, is I need another in-season player, probably a midfielder, as you can see here with the Odenholm, where he's represented. And then if you look at the two contender classic teams here, I've got Bain and Sinisalo. I don't have playing goalkeepers for team 5 and 6 out of the 6 available, as it were, which is why I'm bringing in my 5th Rio Hitate. I've got an in-season midfielder card now to go with the last 3 seasons of Celtic, plus the Kawasaki forward card I've got as well, to just fill in for that spot that we've seen on the lineup builder there for Odenholm. And it really fleshes this team out now to be a really good Team 2 in-season outfit. And Hitate is a guy that, depending on how, the form and other selections, he could easily step in to be Team 1 of Celtic in-season. And I'm going to add in my second Ross Laidlaw. I just think when I look at the fixtures, especially over the period I'm targeting, over the festive period, Ross County don't play Celtic, Ross County don't play Rangers. There's a game with Aberdeen on like the 2nd of January or something like that, but they don't play any of those teams that are more than likely got the potential to score 3 goals or more. So bringing a second Ross Laidlaw in makes a lot of sense. And yes, I've bought another one. I'm bringing back Craig Gordon to the club. We're bringing a classic one in as well, just because it was a bit cheaper, and I don't think we've got that real in-season pressure on the goalkeepers with all the other ones that we've got that are currently in season. But with this Craig Gordon, we can now actually play classic Europa Conference League midweek football with some of the other cards and guys I've got scattered around that competition from the other collections I've got, mainly Sociedad, as well as a few other bits and bobs. So that helps not just this Christmas strategy, but maybe a wee bit of the midweeks between now and then. And hopefully this Craig Gordon rare can serve me as well as my previous Craig Gordon super rare used to serve me. And now when we come back and we look at the festive period, the SPFL special time, as it were, with the goalkeepers now filled in, with that extra in-season midfielder Hatate laid out, it feels that this is like done and dusted. I am still missing an Arne Engels, which will almost certainly come into the club at some point, but his price point is still a little bit steep for me. Hopefully we can win one, maybe we craft one, or maybe we get enough market credits and that kind of thing as well, where picking one up becomes much more affordable. Because the last thing that does need like some sort of level of strength added into it is the last in-season team, but the cascade effect of the Arne Engels coming in, I think just about rights that wrong for it being Celtic only, and it's not going to be Celtic only for, you know, extended periods of this season, just for this little festive period, as it were, because Bundesliga 2 and all these other kind of contender leagues don't really go away for too long in the winter period, so it is just for that little 3 or 4 games where it is just all Scotland. And I think that level of strength in a lower division is still probably going to perform pretty well. Coming into this midweek, we can get the Craig Gordon out and rolling. And look at this Europa League Conference League team. If Hearts don't concede 3 against Heidenheim, there's a lot of AA there for that goalkeeper in the outfield. I think is super strong. We're going full Celtic for the Champions League in season 1, because why the hell not when we're at Paradise? I didn't do this last time and it paid off because the Schmeichel scored so well. But being at home with the Carter Vickers in season card here as well, like, I've got a good feeling that this could be a good week to run it in season. And for super rare, I'm going to go for the All-Star boys, just as a wee side note, since we're clicking through this real quickly, before I show you what we've got to open on Tuesday night, because we actually had some success this weekend. We've got a bunch of boxes coming our way. And just having a look at this All-Star side that we can now cobble together now that we've got, oh yeah, still got Danny Olmo in here with Guardiola. This is good fun. With Cherky and Bernaby and in attack and at the back, Captain Guardiola thinks the way this goes. But I'm feeling, you know, like, everything just feels a lot more well-rounded these days. I'm really happy with all my top lines, all my top teams against in-season, classic All-Star, classic, you know, super rares and stuff like that. The Europa Conference League. This is going to be good fun this game week. I can feel a good one's coming. We'll put a wee 4-man into under 23. But yeah, guys, be sure to join me for reward opening this week, because we've got 9 boxes to open up here. 2 super rares. A bunch, you know, how many is that? 4-star boxes. 4 starred boxes from rare, 2 standard rare boxes. We will be picking up a card, which is cool, and we've also got a limited 3-star box, because we do have, you know, essence to give away now. We've got 15 essence here. If we can get a few essence out of that, we'll get our way to getting a giveaway card for the FC Barcelona members. But I'm 1 rare essence away, and with all those boxes, we might have 2 cards to craft as well, which will be good fun.